I've been mulling over this all spring, and y'all, I have a confession to make. I think that Buddy Daddies might have ruined Spy Family for me. Let me back up. It's December 2022. I'm nearing the end of my reactions for Spy Family Season 1, and I start seeing numerous advertisements for a new series starting January 2023. Buddy Daddies, a show with a name so ridiculous you question if it's a parody or an actual series. I brushed off the series at first, as I'm sure many had at the time, as just being a timely ripoff of Spy Family, banking off the success of the series as Buddy Daddies was initially announced back in October of 2022, around the time that Spy Family came back from its summer hiatus and would be starting right as the series' first season officially ended. I wasn't planning on watching it until anime fans revved up their conspiracy engines and started speculating whether this series, with two male protagonists who are seemingly taking care of a child, could possibly be a BL version of Spy Family. Admittedly, the poster and promotional material made the show seem more edgy, a grungier, albeit highly saturated version of Spy Family, which counters with a more pristine and polished marketing. Buddy Daddy seemed perhaps darker, and the moment the plot detailed that the two main characters, Kazuki and Rei, were quote-unquote roommates leaked, the fandom's theories started to spiral out of control in anticipation. And I had to admit, my interest was piqued. So, to start out the new year and to quench the Spy Family-shaped hole left in my heart, I decided to take a chance and react to Buddy Daddies. And the result was beyond what I could have possibly imagined. What I found shocking was not only that I enjoyed Buddy Daddies beyond reason, but that it sort of ruined Spy Family for me. Maybe. Let's delve deeper. There are aspects about Buddy Daddies that I thought surpassed Spy Family, and I've divided them up into three categories: narrative, characterization, and overall appeal. Before we start, it must be said that there are going to be spoilers for Spy Family as well as Buddy Daddies in this video. And also, the content I'm discussing is the anime original Buddy Daddies and the first season of anime for Spy Family. I'm sure at some point I'm going to make a claim that will make manga readers crack their knuckles and start long-winded rants about how it hasn't happened in the manga yet. And to that I say, please don't. But more on that later. First, narrative. Buddy Daddy spans 12 episodes and a recap episode, while Spy Family's first full season, originally split into two cours, runs a total of 24. Let's talk about Spy Family first. The first core of Spy Family is definitely the tighter of the two, with characters introduced, world building, the main stakes of the show set up, and the narrative woven much closer and with greater cohesion than the second core. It's not to say that I didn't like the second core, but I think an overall complaint, and maybe it's just me, is that the second half of the season for Spy Family, several episodes felt like a series of vignettes or episodic adventures that didn't necessarily tie to the greater whole as well as it could. Not to say that there's anything wrong with these episodes or the plot, but the lack of a cliffhanger or stakes in the main story didn't incite hype or get me excited from week to week like I experienced with Buddy Daddies. With Buddy Daddies, the plot flowed episode to episode, and even when there were episodes with quote-unquote downtime, like shopping trips or going on a field trip, the inclusion of the characters all together, rather than separated like they are throughout Spy Family, and the connection of the events from each episode to the next, even when more mundane, made each moment in each episode feel valid and warranted. Whereas a 10-minute mini-episode of Frankie falling in love or Yor breaking into school to give Anya something she left at home, which coincidentally turns out to be an anime-only moment, but anyway, felt exactly like it was at times. Filler. And it made me wish that things were maybe more focused on instead and tied to the overall plot. Another aspect with the narrative is that of stakes. This is going to bleed over into the category of characterization, but one main aspect handled better, in my opinion, was that of stakes of the show, especially in terms of the climax with Buddy Daddies. Buddy Daddies builds to a climax where Ray has to confront his family, who is threatening to take the lives of his partner Kazuki and their adopted daughter Miri. This series as a whole has a much darker, gorier tone, despite the cute scenes and comedy, and the climax leads to a satisfying resolution after an intense fight and character sacrifice to save the family that he cares for. With Spy Family, the season finale is that Lloyd meets Damien's dad, and he's maybe okay, maybe a threat, we don't know. My point is that throughout Buddy Daddies, the narrative left you in a constant concern that characters could die or that the ending would be at best bittersweet and at worst heartbreaking. There were even talks on my own Discord where patrons were concerned that either Kazuki or Ray would die, whether Miri would be permanently separated from them, and that there was no chance we would get to have our French toast and eat it too. The stakes throughout Buddy Daddies are clear, palpable, and the series builds its climax to give the audience a satisfying resolution. With Spy Family, I do realize it's an ongoing manga, instead of a 12-episode anime original, but even ongoing manga series that have been adapted into anime, such as Vinland Saga, My Hero Academia, etc., they have endings that cement the stakes and leave you eager for more in season 2. For as popular as Spy Family is, I couldn't help but feel a bit underwhelmed by the season finale. That 24 weeks of week-to-week viewing led to an ending of just meeting a family member of one of the main characters, and that's about it. Now, granted, there is a difference in genre with these series to an extent. You could argue Spy Family is primarily a comedy genre, and Buddy Daddies is a drama itself. But arguably, both involve comedy, drama, and to a lesser extent, romance and relationships, which we'll talk about here shortly. So it's not out of the realm of possibility to compare the two, especially when we consider, second, characterization. When I started Buddy Daddies, I immediately noticed why some people were comparing it to Spy Family in the first few episodes. You have two adults trying to raise a 4 to 6-year-old little girl. One partner in the family dynamic is a trained assassin, and the other is a blonde. Joking aside, Kazuki and Lloyd are quite different characters, but the similarities between Yor and Ray and Anya and Miri, while surface level, are noticeable enough to lead to easy comparisons. In both series, two individuals who start out not in a relationship at all suddenly find themselves in a pseudo-relationship trying to raise a little girl for various reasons. At this point, and by the 3rd episode of each season, it's clear that those are where the similarities start to wane, especially with the characters and their relationships with one another. There's been a lot of people throw shade at Miri in Buddy Daddies, saying her high-pitched voice and acting like a legit 4-year-old is annoying, and I get it. If you're watching anime for escapism from your actual 4-year-old children or siblings or kids at the daycare that you work at, then I can see how Miri would be too real for you to handle. To me, Miri's character seems like a real 4-year-old, and it adds to the stakes of her character. Her being in danger makes you concerned that something could happen to her. During season 1 of Spy Family, I was concerned that Anya would get caught using her powers, which could blow their entire cover as a fake family, but if I'm being honest, I was never truly concerned that something bad was going to happen to her. Unlike Kazuki and Ray, who suffer numerous injuries in the series, with one even permanently disabling themselves, Lloyd never feels like he's in real danger. One of my fellow patrons likened him to a Gary Stew even, and I've never felt like the stakes of Spy Family were the death of a character level. Only that they could get caught or found out, which would hinder their progression as a fake family, but more on that in a moment. Basically, I personally thought that the decision to make Miri as authentic a child as possible lent to the theme of parenting that Buddy Daddies goes for, especially considering the show's creator actually polled staff and others for parenting advice and information to make the parenting aspect of the show seem as authentic and real as possible. It's a level of commitment in the story that helps us feel more for Ray and Kazuki as they navigate this difficult world of parenting, despite having access to all the resources a parent could possibly want, which also includes babysitters that function, both as bartenders and as personal banks. Spy Family in comparison doesn't have the fully realized family dynamic down nearly as well as Buddy Daddies. Lloyd is gone most of the day on spy missions and comes home to make dinner unless Yor experiments, and Yor, well, babysits Anya when she gets home from school, and we don't really see what she does outside of that unless it's learning to unsuccessfully cook better. And that's really the crux of it for me, the relationship between the three in each series. Anya never quite feels in danger and is part of the family for Lloyd's mission to go successfully. That's not to say that Lloyd isn't developing feelings for Anya, but it does in 24 episodes not quite get to the satisfying level of love and care that Kazuki's relationship with Miri develops in, let's say, 12. For Buddy Daddies, Miri isn't needed for a scheme or a ploy. She's the crux of Kazuki's bridge between the traumas of his past and the bright future we want for his character to work towards, to a life beyond that of a hitman. Lloyd is on a similar journey with Anya, but it's just not quite there yet, one could argue. And Lloyd still seems quite distant from Anya, even by the end of season 1. And then there is Kazuki and Rei versus Lloyd and Yor. Now, at this point, I am sure that there are manga readers that are cracking their knuckles, novels at the ready, but please, if you all want me to continue with my reactions to Spy Family, I do not want to know manga spoilers. Please and thank you. I am sure, or rather I'm hoping, the latter happens later on in the series, that Lloyd and Yor gain the potential to be a couple. I'm sure the mangaka is planning that, unless they're going to go, full on in the comedy and blue balls us in the end, to which case I hope that's not what happens. However, based on the first seasons of either series, the relationships between the two pairs are fascinating to view side by side. In both cases, one could argue there's no real romance between either pair. Neither have technically done anything romantic outside of potentially gone on pseudo dates with one another, and even then, the most prudent of us could argue that they were, quote-unquote, for the mission. However, I think the majority of both fandoms would agree that there are sparks and love, subtext or otherwise, between these two couples in each series. For me, what makes Buddy Daddies the better in this regard is how equally both partners are focused on in the series. Kazuki and Rei get equal screen time throughout. Both have familial backstories shared to the audience, and both are working side by side to conquer their past and work together towards becoming a better family in the future. And the series rewards us with an extremely satisfying epilogue to all the pain and trauma we went through throughout the series to get us to this point. With Spy Family, we've yet to see Lloyd and Yor work together, and I know it's probably to come later on. But it is a little disheartening that in 24 episodes of Spy Family, we see Lloyd being a spy, we see them putting on the airs of a family, but I wanted more of the three of them doing things together. And if it takes 24 episodes or more to get to where an anime original series got in 12 or less, it does feel a little stretched out. Plus, and this is an argument in favor of BL in terms of relationships, that often in opposite sex couples in anime, in shonen it's a male character taking the lead, in shoujo it's a female character, whereas in yaoi or yuri, the characters that are same sex often both take the lead on even terms. But of course, that is an entire video that could be made with these types of relationships in mind, and these are just my casual observations between these two series alone, comparing to others I've watched or read so far. I think it speaks volumes that you have two male protagonists in Buddy Daddies who get romantic subtext, equal screen time, and a series that devotes itself to representing each other, working together on par with one another. When in Spy Family, despite Yor supposedly being an amazing assassin, we hardly see her doing her thing. Instead, she's relegated to learning to cook and take care of Anya alone, while Lloyd is off doing the breadwinning with his cool spy work. I wanted to see more of the two of them working together, sharing the roles in both the spy and the family. And I know many will argue that the manga will get to that, but like I said, I didn't have to wait for over 24 episodes worth of Buddy Daddies to give me what I wanted in a concise narrative with characters who share the screen with equally dynamic appeal. Speaking of appeal, third, overall appeal. Spy Family, don't get me wrong, has a massive mainstream following, and I thoroughly did enjoy my reactions to it. I think the main reason Spy Family is so popular, though, is because it plays it very safe. Spy Family is like the vanilla milkshake of anime, which there's nothing wrong with vanilla milkshakes. They're delicious and lots of people love them. It's one of the most popular flavors, if not the most popular, for a reason. But it runs the risk of being bland or getting old too fast if you have too much of it. Buddy Daddies, in comparison, is more like a chocolate and caramel sundae with peanuts on it. Is it going to be for everybody? No. But is it going to maybe be more satisfying than that plain vanilla shake? Well, it depends on your tastes, I suppose. Buddy Daddies takes a lot of risks in its series, with the gore that can be surprisingly grim. At one point, a knife goes through a man's throat, and a tone that gets dark and serious with some of its content, whereas Spy Family plays it very safe, and there aren't any direct or gruesome deaths in the series because its content is directed to appeal to a more mass audience, which can include children. Buddy Daddies' creator specifically wanted to portray two same-sex individuals navigating the world of parenting, and on social media has been constantly reposting fandom content that suggests the two are in a relationship by the end of the series. For a genre and audience that, sadly, is not entirely on board with promoting such relationships, it's a risk. Whereas by focusing on the comedy and not so much the romance, Spy Family doesn't have to worry about that to the same degree. Do I still enjoy Spy Family? Yes. But if I'm honest, the thing I'm interested in at this point is mainly Damien and Anya's relationship, which feels more fleshed out than that of Yor and Lloyd's, despite how physically attractive each character is. But if you asked me if I prefer a season 2 of Buddy Daddies to that of Spy Family at this point, I don't think that it would be a question. What I love about Buddy Daddies is that it is a single story an animation studio took a risk with. Like series such as Skate the Infinity and Death Parade, which I've also watched on my channel, they're standalone series that take risks and dare to go against the grain and give a tightly woven narrative with character development that resonates with audiences alongside elements of storytelling that are gripping, relatable, and fun. Am I still going to react to Spy Family Season 2? Oh, I'm sure I'm going to get to it. But I'm currently longing for more with Buddy Daddies, and I hope the creators get enough support to make an OVA, a prequel, a midquel. Any more content would be welcome. But if we don't get it, at least we have 12 solid episodes to rewatch as often as I please.